And plays Lamoille for the championship. Coverage starts at 5:15. Brought to you by Cody Chevrolet, Mansfield Orthopedic at Copley Hospital, Bolduc Metal Recycling, and Nelson Ace Hardware. The final night of the Dave Morse Tournament tomorrow night on Northfield Savings Bank High School basketball on WDEV. Brought to you by Maplewood and the Vermont Travelers Service Center.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy.
The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133.
The passion.
The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Happy snowy Friday here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Look, I'm disappointed for the kids that high school basketball was postponed tonight to tomorrow night, but I'm happy for us because we get 90 minutes together. We go up until 7 o'clock. So drive safe wherever you're going, and let's get together here until 7 again. A full 90 minutes. We'll get you ready for the rest of NFL Week 15, including all the Saturday games now that are going on this week. Love the end of the season. We get football Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we'll do that. We got our six-pack of NFL questions, more about the Red Sox, who make some interesting and noteworthy moves today, and we'll also talk, unfortunately, about what the Yankees did, and Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston is going to be with us in about 15 minutes. I think he's in Arizona right now, which is where the Patriots are. So Phil's going to be with us again in about 15 minutes. Let's see here. The Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line is open, 802-585-3026. It's your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. Lego.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I'm not going to lie to you. I am very worried about Sunday's Patriots game. The Patriots are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. I am very worried about this game for the Patriots. Now, you know where I stand on them, right? Like, I think they're pretty average. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I've been pretty transparent about that throughout. But they're playing a team that's well under 500. And in the entirety of the 7 seasons that I've been talking about the team, when the Patriots play a team that's well under 500, I generally pencil it in as a victory. That's why I was so confident in the Patriots beating the Cardinals on Monday night. Like, I couldn't fathom them losing to that team or a team with that bad a record. I'm just on autopilot as far as picking the Patriots against bad football teams. I'm not on autopilot this weekend. I am very, very nervous about what's going to happen on Sunday in Vegas. The Raiders are 5-8. They just lost to Baker Mayfield, who came right off the plane, essentially, and beat them. The Raiders are a bad team that do dumb things, and yet I think they have a very real chance of beating the Patriots on Sunday. I am extremely nervous. Now, this is another must-win for the Patriots. They are 7-6. They need to get to 8-6, given what's coming behind the Raiders on the schedule, and well, they've got to play the Bengals, and they've got to play the Dolphins, and then they've got to play the Bills in Buffalo. So, this is a gotta-have-it game against a team that's under 500. It's a gotta-have-it game. But despite all that, I'm scared. How are you feeling about this game? 802-585-3026. I am scared. Again, the Raiders have a bad record. They do some dumb things, but they have some elite pieces on this roster. Now, those pieces don't always play well at the same time. It doesn't always coalesce together. But on any given Sunday, those elite pieces can absolutely decimate you. And when I look at the Raiders roster, I see elite pieces that I'm afraid of. Davante Adams very well may be the best receiver in the game. Davante Adams is a stud and a star, and he can absolutely go off for 12 catches for 185 and 2 scores, and he can beat you and your defense single-handedly. He makes me nervous. I saw Josh Jacobs, run for 240 yards against the Seahawks, and he single-handedly beat them. I'd be worried about him too. And then you mentioned, or you don't even mention that off the injury report today, or off off injured reserve this week and potentially able to play is Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller. Adams, Jacobs, Renfrow, Waller, that's 4 elite offensive players, plus a Pro Bowl level quarterback in Derek Carr to get him the football. This is not playing Colt McCoy. This is not playing Jacoby Brissett. This is not playing Zach Wilson. This is playing an accomplished quarterback who's been to the playoffs before. And look, I know not everybody's in love with Derek Carr, but he is better than a lot of the quarterbacks the Patriots have beaten this year. I could absolutely see the Patriots losing this game, and they cannot afford to lose it. I'm terrified. I think I've done a pretty good job this season at telling you the truth on the Patriots. I've predicted them to win a bunch of games. I've predicted them to lose some, and generally I feel like I've been pretty dead on. This game makes me extremely nervous. Yes, the Raiders are bad, but their pieces are that good. Their pieces are that good. What is the good answer here? If you want to stack the box to stop the run, well, then Davante Adams will kill you. And if Renfrow and Waller are there, they will really kill you. If you want to double Adams, then Renfrow and Waller will kill you. If you want to shade safety help towards Adams, then Renfrow and Waller will kill you. If you want to just play straight up on the outside and cover all the receivers, well, then Jacobs will kill you. There's not a good option here. This is a Raiders team that should not be 5-8. They are 5-8. They should not be 5-8. Their talent level is way above what their record is. Now, Arizona was not a good team. The Raiders have a bad record, but they should be a good team, and that's the difference. And they scare me to death on Sunday. And this game, I mean, look, this is an interesting matchup. This is an interesting matchup because this is a strength on strength and weakness on weakness game. It's a very interesting dynamic. You look at the Raiders' defense, it's not very good. Raiders' defense is in the bottom third of the league in most important categories. Points per game, bottom third. Yards per game, bottom third. Opponent third down percentage, bottom third. Opponent red zone percentage, like nearly dead last. So the Raiders' defense is bad. But the Patriots' offense is bad also. So to me, it's not a given that the Patriots' offense can exploit that defense. Conversely, you look at it, this is strength on strength. The Raiders' offense is good. They're in the top half of the league in a lot of the key metrics. Patriots' defense is fairly good. So you look, this is not like, okay, well, it's our weakness against their strength. We could clearly dominate it. No, this is a battle of futility when you talk about the Patriots' offense against the Raiders' defense, and it's a battle of strength when you talk about their offense against the Patriots' defense. This is a tough game to forecast, and it's a game that makes me very, very nervous. If you're asking me what the matchup to watch in this game is, well, I'm going to say it's the Patriots' offense against the Raiders' defense. To me, that's where this game is going to be decided. And I say that because if the Patriots offense can do atypical things, okay, if they can go up and down the field and get up 10-0 or 14-3 or 17-7, well, then they're going to make the defense's job much, much easier. If the Patriots offense can take advantage of the Raiders defense, then they will help out the Patriots defense immensely, right? They'll make the Raiders one-dimensional. And when a team is made one-dimensional, a good defense like the Patriots can swarm. Derek Carr is not a very mobile quarterback. So if they can get ahead and take the run game out of it, well, the Patriots defense then has a chance to feast potentially. But you look at it the other way, if the Patriots offense can't capitalize, well, then you're putting your defense behind the 8 ball against a really good offense, and now an offense that will have all their options in front of them. If Mac Jones comes out in the first possession and throws a pick and the Raiders offense starts at the Patriots 38, that's a tough day for your defense. That's a tough stop for your defense. Like, not against this team. If the Patriots come out and get 2 holding penalties on their first drive and end up having to punt from their own 6 and end up giving the ball back to Vegas at midfield, that's going to be tough. If your offense can exploit their defense, you help out your defense immensely. If you cannot, well, then the Raiders offense is good enough to capitalize on its own chances. So the matchup that matters to me most is my offense trying to do its job well. If I can keep the field possession in my favor, if I can get an early lead, if I can allow my defense to play with their ears pinned back and just come after the quarterback, well, life becomes much easier for me. This is the way it is in most games, but it really is going to be that way on Sunday. I can't have a situation where the Raiders offense is allowed to have a bunch of gimmies, where they're allowed to start in advantageous situations. I cannot have that. I cannot have that. The Patriots, if they can make the Raiders one-dimensional, they'll have a chance to halt their weaponry. If they can't, and the Raiders are playing from in front of the sticks and in good field position, it could be the upset happening that I fear. And injuries are going to be a big part of this as well. Like, yesterday's practice report for the Patriots was nuts. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson didn't practice yesterday, and neither did Jacoby Myers, and neither did Devontae Parker. And Devontae Parker's been ruled out already with the concussion. So Jack Jones didn't practice yesterday. You look at the Raiders, Waller and Renfro. I mean, that's a huge dynamic here. If Waller and Renfro don't play, life is made much easier for the Patriots right off the bat. If they play and they're on a snap count, life is made easier for the Patriots right off the bat. But if they play and they're close to 100%, it's kind of a pick-your-poison scenario for Bill Belichick and that defense. Napa Morrisville, 802-585-3026. Texter says they will win big time, but the potential win is not the issue. I'm not sure what you're getting at. I mean, I don't think the Patriots are going to win big time. That I don't think. I think if the Patriots win this game, they can win it by a touchdown. You know, I don't think they're going to win this game 38-17. I don't think that's going to happen. If the Patriots win this game, I think we're in the 20-13, 24-17, 27-20 range. That's where I think we're at if the Patriots win this game. Vegas is the team that can put up a bunch of points if everything's going their way. They're the team that has that kind of firepower. The Patriots don't. So I don't think the Patriots win big. Let's talk to Phil Perry, though, here momentarily. We got Phil calling in here on the phone line. So, Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston. Let's fire it up.
It's another Football Friday and another look at your New England Patriots.
And I will put it at the feet of Mac Jones. I mean, you get the credit when everything's going well. First third down of the game, first drive of the game, you throw it right to the other team. 7 points going the other way.
With all the info from Patriots Place, it's Pat's insider, Phil Perry.
No, it's not that I think less of him. I think the fact that I am high on him leads to the honest criticism of him. I know he's better than the way he's played.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Yes, we do have the aforementioned Phil Perry with us now on the phone line. Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston Patriots insider. Remember, you've got pregame live and postgame live coming up on Sunday on the TV side of things. So Phil is with us now. Phil, thank you as always. How are you?
I'm doing great, Brady. Just enjoying beautiful Tucson, Arizona. It's actually much colder than I thought. I'm completely unprepared, and so I'm mostly freezing my ass off, to be quite honest with you.
So it's Friday afternoon. The team is still in Arizona. I presume this is planned just to keep the team out of Vegas as long as humanly possible and avoid any Vegas pitfalls. When is the team actually going to Vegas?
They'll head out on Saturday. Or it may actually even be later tonight. That's a great question by you, but they're not going to be out there very long, to your point. I think it's probably partly that, yes, Brady, but it's also they have a very close relationship with Jed Fish, who's the head coach here at the University of Arizona. They have great facilities here at the University of Arizona. I'm not sure what kind of relationship, if any, they have with anybody in the Vegas area. So this just ended up working out well for them. Practice field right next to the weight room, right next to the locker room. They're able to bus back and forth. They're staying about 20 minutes away from campus here, so it's not like they're downtown Tucson necessarily or anything, but I think this has been a pretty good situation for them just to be able to get away, have a lot of convenient practice periods at their disposal, and, Bill Belichick likes doing these trips, so if they can come away with 2 wins, Brady, it will probably only encourage him to have more of these moving forward.
It would be monumental if they could come away with 2 wins. Right now, they're currently in the 7th spot in the AFC playoff picture. And let's go to with what we were just talking about before you came on. What do we know about the Patriots on the injury front? I mean, yesterday's injury report was fairly grim.
Yeah, today it looks a little better, and so we'll see what the official status is on some of these guys, but Jacoby Myers, Ramondre Stevenson, and Jack Jones were all back at practice today after missing Thursday's practice. So those were all DNPs on Thursday, along with Isaiah Wynn. Still not seeing Wynn out there, so you'll have either Yodny Kajust or Connor McDermott at right tackle opposite of Trent Brown on the starting offensive line. But just to get Stevenson and Myers in particular back at practice, to me, is a good sign. And again, we'll see if either are able to play. Jacoby Myers working his way through concussion protocol and Stevenson dealing with an ankle injury. But those guys combined, Brady, I just crunched some of the numbers. They are responsible for 40% of the Patriots offense this year. So 2 players, 40%, it's a massive, massive chunk of what they've done this season is because of those 2 guys. So against what is a real offense, you got a real offense on the other sideline this weekend in Vegas, you're going to need to be able to score some points. And so you need those 2 guys if you're going to score some points.
Yeah, I am terrified about this matchup. I mean, usually when the Patriots are playing a team that's well under 500, I'm just used to historically penciling in a Patriots victory. I'm not doing that this week. When you talk about a team that has Josh Jacobs and Derek Carr and Devontae Adams and then may have Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller back, I'm fairly nervous about this one. Do you think the fear is justified despite how up and down the Raiders have been?
I think so, Brady, because they are really good in a lot of places where the Patriots have been not so good, especially lately. So they have a true number 1 receiver. We know they had a hell of a time trying to stop Justin Jefferson. And then the following week, Stephon Diggs for the Buffalo Bills. Now, they did a good job against DeAndre Hopkins, but that was with a backup quarterback in Colt McCoy. You have a real live quarterback, and say what you will about Derek Carr, but he is at least a slightly above average quarterback, in my opinion, throwing to one of the best receivers in football, somebody who is on that Justin Jefferson level, in my opinion, in Devontae Adams. But you also might have Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller coming back from injury. And you, on the other side of the ball, you have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL who's really accustomed to working on right tackles, and the Patriots don't have a starting right tackle available to them right now. So Max Crosby could have a hell of a day for the Raiders and make things really difficult for this Patriots offense. I think this is a tough matchup on a variety of different fronts.
Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston Patriots insider, with us here as he is every Friday. You know, we're 4 days removed from the Patriots win over the Cardinals, and a lot of the talk this week has not been about that win. It's been about Mac Jones's behavior and Mac Jones's attitude. And I heard what you said this week on NBC Sports Boston, that you're okay with him acting this way and you understand his frustration. And where I came down on it was this: I also understand why he's frustrated, but I don't want to see the histrionics become a regular part of his repertoire. When he did it against Buffalo, I was on his side and he was speaking truth to my frustration. When you do it 2 weeks in a row, if it becomes a regular part of your persona, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at that point.
Yeah, and I get that, and that's sort of the decorum discussion part of it. You know, I think just in general, You're looking for leaders to act in a certain way. But I would say this. The Patriots in that locker room, Patriots players view Mac Jones as a leader, and they view him as an improving leader and a growing leader. And we've talked to other leaders on this team, like Matthew Slater, for instance, who have seen a lot of great leadership from quarterback over the course of the last, 20 years or so here in New England. And they're not telling us that they don't like this stuff that they've seen from Mac Jones. Even Mac Jones' assistant coaches are saying that they like to see what they're seeing from Mac Jones. And they're probably lying, Brady, let's be honest, when it comes to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, saying they're into that. But that is one way for Mac Jones and the Patriots players, I think, to hold the coaching staff accountable. And that's something that's been made very apparent to me over the course of the last few weeks, is that that's something that the Patriots and their players want to do, is they need more from the coaching staff. How do they get it? I think these public displays of frustration are one way of doing that. And, again, we all have an idea in our heads of what is the right and wrong way of comporting yourself. But I would get back to the why of it. Why does it matter? If it is a regular thing, why is that bad? Are you encouraging some sort of mutiny? I guess you could say that. I think we're kind of, it's not mutiny, Brady, but we're kind of already there in terms of them not being bought in fully on what this coaching staff is bringing to the table. So if it squeezes a little bit more out of those guys because it somehow puts more pressure on them, which I think it has, if you've noticed the national conversation around this Patriots offense these last few weeks, that to me is an okay outcome for what looks like sort of a petulant act.
I remember at the beginning of his career when Cam Newton got the reputation as being whiny, and Kyler Murray's kind of got that reputation, and now Zach Wilson on the sideline looks very, very surly. I'm trying to avoid those kind of labels following Mac throughout his entire career like it has for those guys.
And I get that, but again, why does it matter? The label. To me, it's to what end, right? If you're doing it because you're trying to win. I think the difference with Newton and Murray, it looked like at times that those guys weren't trying or they didn't care. And I don't even think that's true. I think they did. I think it just maybe trickled down, and maybe that led to some sort of malaise on the part of their teammates. I don't think we're seeing that. I think you're seeing urgency from Mac Jones in this case, and maybe that's a distinction that I'm viewing from a different lens because I'm around the Patriots all the time, and I was not around Cam Newton or Kyler Murray early in their careers. But I think if you are approaching your job in such a way that you have been pushed to the point of having some of the reactions that you're having, that to me is different from, well, it's not going my way, and I'm going to kick rocks, and I'm going to hang my head and put my towel over my head as I sit down on the bench. I think they are a little bit different.
Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. It did seem, I would say comical, but very intentional that after the Buffalo game, Mac said he wanted to be coached harder, and then he went on WEEI on Monday and said that Josh McDaniels coached him really hard. That's not irony there. That's got to be intentional, right?
Even if it's not, Brady, I think it tells us a lot. I think it tells us, number one, that Mac Jones, again, is trying to get more from this coaching staff. And then that leads us to the conversation of, okay, do they have the ability to provide more? Because we know Josh McDaniels did, right? They had a lot in terms of the volume of their offense, in terms of the breadth of concepts that were given to even a young rookie quarterback like Mac Jones. In this case, I think they would love to have more. I think they would love to have more plays. I think they'd love to have more creativity on the offensive side. And I don't know if this staff is capable of providing that for them. So that's what I think he means when he says coaching hard, right? He's not just talking about yelling and screaming and, motivating in that way. He's talking about ask a lot of me. I'm ready. I want more. Give me more. Coach me hard. And it's something that I think has been lacking all season.
Phil, I got two questions, one serious, one not. I'll go with the serious one first. This is actually one of the more interesting sports radio debates I find myself having in the 8 years that I've been doing this. And let me just give you quickly the genesis of it. So I was listening to a podcast the other day with a former Major League Baseball executive who played professionally in the MLB in the 90s. And he said the difference between sports now and then was then coaches always tried to work on your weaknesses. And now coaches only try to accentuate your strengths. And I'm curious if you see that way of thinking in the NFL around the Patriots, and just kind of what your thoughts are on that. Because the more I think about it, like, that's great for a team, I think, and less good for a player who wants to grow.
Yeah, that's a great thought. And I think it matters based on what level of the sport you're talking about, right? The NFL, because of the way the rosters are, and because the college game really functions as the developmental league, I think the examples of massive player development, and changing a weakness to a strength, I think those are, relatively speaking, few and far between. Now, obviously, you see players improve over the course of their careers, and there are coaches like, for instance, Joe Kemp, right, who's here in New England. He's a pass rush specialist coach, and he's worked with somebody like Josh Uche, who, because of injury and some other reasons, like, it's really taken him 3 years to become a legitimate NFL player. But, something that Bill Belichick says, even going into drafts, Brady. So before they even get their hands on these guys, tell me what this guy can do. Don't tell me what he can't do. And I think there is a feeling that if you waste your time trying to make a player something he's not, so try in this discussion that we're having, trying to turn a weakness into a strength, you're wasting your time. So if he does enough, well enough, that you can build on that and make it better to the point where he can be a real productive player for your team, and I assume the same is true in baseball, then great. If not, then he's probably not the guy for us, and maybe he's not the guy for this league. I just think it's really hard to develop players that much at the professional level in any sport where you're going to completely do a 180 and a handful of categories. It happens, but I think banking on it happening and really investing a lot of time and energy and effort in trying to make that happen, that might be sort of wasting your time.
It's a fascinating discussion. I'm going to do more with it here on the top of the hour. My last not-so-serious question is this. We play a lot of audio from you and Tom Curran and Matt Castle and the NBC Boston crew, and we get that audio from the NBC Boston Twitter account. And oftentimes they'll put music behind what you said. And I got to go back to something that you said yesterday. I'm going to play part of it for you.
I totally get it. I get it. This has been building for months. I think he tried to approach this thing in a certain way.
I would like to know why the Irish jig music is behind the Patriots segment that you're talking about there.
I would love for them to give me the creative license to be able to determine what kind of music is played behind my own commentary. I feel like that could really color how people view certain things that I'm saying on the air. I would love to have that freedom. Unfortunately, Brady, they don't give that to me. Maybe it's because I'm 50% Irish, very proud of my Irish heritage, and they just felt as though this was a good time to drop that in. We're still 4 months away from St. Patrick's Day, but what better time than now to prepare? So maybe that's what that was. I honestly, I would love to be able to explain that a little bit better for you, but I've got no insight.
Well, I had a good laugh as we played it yesterday on the air. There's Phil Mick Perry with the Patriots insight there. So, Phil, enjoy the game. We'll talk next week.
Brady, thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Phil Perry from Tucson, Arizona. And as we were talking to Phil, we got some more word on the Patriots injury. So Devontae Parker's out. We told you that was going to be the case. But Jacoby Myers and Ramondre Stevenson questionable. So that's good. And Phil said that those guys were back out at practice. So that is good. We'll see if they play, how they are. I think Damian Harris now is questionable as well. So look, it's a game of attrition. When you're at week 15, you're going to see a lot of guys who are in and out of the lineup kind of just giving it what they've got. We'll see what the Patriots can get. But I'm nervous about it on Sunday. Phil agrees with me. Phil says I have a right to be nervous. It's a dynamic offense for the Raiders when things are humming. It has the potential to be a dynamic offense when things are humming. We'll see if they hum on Sunday. Texter says your Raiders' offensive fears are legit, but this is a New England sports team. They will rock your world after the season is doomed. Look, the Patriots' season is not officially doomed. It is doomed to me, right? I don't think the Patriots are going to make the playoffs. Those guys in that room do not think that it's doomed. Those guys aren't looking ahead like I am. I look at it and say they're not going to beat Cincy, and they're not going to beat Buffalo, and they're not going to beat Miami. They're not going to beat all three of them. That's how I look at it. And those guys don't think that, though. They don't think it's doomed. The Patriots, I believe, will come out ready to play. Phil, though, talks about Pat's players trying to hold coaches accountable. It's not a great situation. I think mentally they will be ready to play. I think they will be pumped up. They just have to come out and attack in the way they attacked for so long. They have to have precision, and lately they've had far too much, lack of precision in a lot of these games. So I am nervous about it. Phil tells me I'm justified. Phil's very, very smart. So I think you have a right to be nervous as well. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I want to expand on what I asked Phil, because the debate over working on your strengths versus working on your weaknesses is one of the more fascinating debates that I've ever wanted to have on the air. We're going to talk about it a little bit more next. We'll take your thoughts on DEV.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
And Linda Kenyon in Washington. Winter weather has hit large parts of the country. Rick Dorian is contending with several feet of snow.
Well, day 4 of being stuck in Murdo, South Dakota. I'm going to step outside here. I was stuck since Tuesday. It is now Friday. I don't know, a few hours, so when I can get out of here, I can, but it's not looking good for sure. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Connecticut is handling the snow so far, says public information officer in Norfolk.
Our local town crews have been doing great. They've been out since midnight last night. Things are very slushy, but that's to be expected. Thankfully, we've had no incidents, accidents. Things have been quiet, thankfully.
WNBA star Brittany Griner makes her first post since her release from Russia. Here's CBS's Ben Jacobs.
In an emotional statement on Instagram, she touched upon a number of things from a sporting perspective. She confirmed she will play in the WNBA this season for Phoenix Mercury. We don't know at this point from a physical or mental perspective how fit she is, but all of that is really for a later time. At the moment, everyone is just glad to have her home.
An increase in migrants expected. Here's CBS's Lilia Luciano.
They're trying to crack down on smuggling. They're also increasing penalties or consequences for people who cross illegally, not for asylum seekers. They're also working with the countries where people come from to deter what they call irregular migration, to figure out a way to partner with countries to either receive migrants or to manage or mitigate the conditions that force people out of their homes and into the United States.
The cryptocurrency exchange company FTX is being sued for withholding names of clients and creditors.
The filing comes under the heading of disclosure being a basic tenet of bankruptcy law cited by both the U.S. bankruptcy trustee and a media attorney. A judge has temporarily allowed FTX to file redacted versions of the client list, but ordered full disclosure documents filed and sealed for now. That hasn't happened yet. The Wall Street Journal's Alexander Osipovich spoke with former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried before his arrest in the Bahamas.
He kept insisting that he didn't deliberately mislead any customers.
He remains jailed. Peter King, CBS News.
A new study claims a third of executions went wrong this year.
While the number of executions is down, it claims in 35% of the cases, something went wrong. The report also finds public support for the practice is waning. The death penalty was carried out in just 6 states this year, and more than half of those in just 2 states, Oklahoma and Texas.
CBS's Cammie McCormick. This is CBS News.
Dell Technologies Days of Deals start now with specials on select business PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Call 877-ASK-DELL.
Sometimes families go through hard times and they need a little help. That's where you come in. By becoming licensed foster parents, you can have a profound effect on the lives of children, young adults, and families in your community. You'll provide children with kindness, understanding, and a stable place to live until they can reunite with their families. You'll give them time to heal, grow, learn new things, and develop connections with other caring adults. This will give the parents time to work on their issues and figure things out. You can care for the child of a relative, friend, or someone else in your community. All kinds of foster families are needed to care for children of all ages, needs, and backgrounds. To learn how your family can help another Vermont family, go to fostercare.vt.gov. That's fostercare.vt.gov. All families need help sometimes. When you help a family to get stronger, you lift up the entire community. Sponsored by Vermont Department for Children and Families.
This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
The School District of Philadelphia once again telling students, faculty, and staff to mask up. KYW's Tim Jimenez has the story.
The mask requirement at school district buildings will be in place from January 3rd through the 13th. It's a proactive measure, according to the district, to reduce the spread of COVID and other respiratory viruses, to limit absences, and to maintain in-person learning. Now, the CDC has been encouraging people to mask up at this time, and City Health Commissioner Cheryl Bedegal says it's a good idea.
If you're riding the bus, if you're in a crowded store, crowded indoor spaces in general, masks still help protect us.
And it's not just COVID, but also the flu and RSV.
Opposition to COVID-19 vaccine mandates that became increasingly political during the pandemic appears to have spilled over into inoculations that have long been required for school children. A new survey finds nearly 3 in 10 adults said parents should be able to decide not to vaccinate their children for measles, mumps, and rubella. Linda Kenyon, CBS News.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. We'll get to our 6-pack of NFL questions here in a couple of minutes. And a reminder, we go up until 7 o'clock. The Dave Morris Invitational Basketball Tournament on the high school front postponed until tomorrow, when our coverage will begin at 5:15. This is one of the more interesting debates that I can ever remember wanting to have in sports radio. Right? I've been doing this for 8 years, and this is one of the more interesting debates I've ever wanted to have, and I really just kind of stumbled into it. So I asked Phil Perry about the idea of working on your strengths and your weaknesses, but let me give kind of the full genesis of where this debate came from. Last week, I was listening to an interview with Mariners general manager Jerry Dipoto. Whenever Jerry Dipoto talks, I listen. I find him very fascinating. I find him very interesting. He's very open, and he's very transparent. And he played Major League Baseball in the 90s as a pitcher for the Mets and for Cleveland and for Colorado. And maybe not the Mets. No, yeah, with the Mets, I think. But mainly for Cleveland and Colorado. And he said that back in the 90s when he played, coaches and teams always tried to work on your weakness. Now, teams try to work on your strength. And I just find that way of thinking fascinating, because I can see this from both sides. I can see why it would be great to just work on your strengths and become great at this one or two things. And I can also see why it would be great to work on your weaknesses and allow yourself to become a more complete player. So I ask you for your thoughts on this. How do you like your teams? How do you like your players? Playing to your strengths and your strengths only, or trying to become more complete? I started thinking about this yesterday. And we had Cam Ellsworth, the Norwich men's hockey coach. We had him on the airwaves on the midday news service like we do every Thursday, and I asked him his thoughts on this very same topic.
That's one of the one things I took away was this in one of my leadership classes was like accentuating people's strengths. Like, why are we spending time on things you're not great at instead of being better than anybody else at these things that you are? And so I've tried to, within balance, really look for those things. And I guess the way that I would say it is I started looking more for what things kids could do versus what they didn't do well.
It's fascinating. So the MLB executive says, now we focus on strengths. Okay. Cam Ellsworth says, now I focus on strengths. I got to tell you, I think I'm a little disappointed by this revelation. I think I'm a little disappointed by this because at the end of the day, I like when people are allowed to grow. I like when people are not stunted. And I feel like this way of thinking limits your ability to grow as a player. And I lament that for players. Now, look, I have to acknowledge that this way of thinking is good for teams. I think it's good for teams. I do not like this for players. So I'll go from the team perspective first. But from the team perspective, I get why this is done. I get why Jerry DiPoto says that. I get why Cam Ellsworth says that. When you are a team, this allows you to be really efficient in your development, does it? Basically, when you are a team, you are engineering the best team that you can to get a desired outcome, right? A team wants to have an answer for every single scenario. So teams do well by developing those answers to all of those scenarios. So you look up and down sports, there are rosters where guys have very specific and very specialized roles, and oftentimes it does lead the team to a success. So I cannot say that this way of thinking is wrong. I just feel bad for players who get typecast as one thing and are never allowed to get out of that role. That's what this bothers me, or that's where this bothers me. But you look at sports, right? Major League Baseball. Okay, we got a pitcher who only pitches to lefties because that's where he's great. We don't want him to pitch to righties. We got a hitter that only hits against lefties. We got a hitter that only hits against righties. We got a basketball player who only plays defense. We got a basketball player who only shoots threes. We got a basketball player who only takes threes from the corner. You look at what Phil said about football. We got a guy who rushes the passer only. That's all he does. We got a running back who only plays on third down. We got a guy who only returns kicks. We got a guy who only covers the slot, who only plays in the slot. Teams are engineering rosters to be at their optimum performance. So I cannot say that they are wrong. But as a former player myself, I hate the idea of being stuck in a box and not allowed to grow and not allowed to get better. I like the idea as a player of being allowed to get to be a complete player. Look, I understand you're always going to have strengths. And when push comes to shove, you should play to your strengths. I absolutely get that. But I like the ability for you to develop your own answers. Look, Aroldis Chapman for a long time threw 103 miles an hour. So I always got that Aroldis Chapman was going to be a guy who threw his fastball, who worked off his fastball, who relied on his fastball. I got that. I accepted that. I understood that. That made sense to me. But I also championed the idea of Aroldis Chapman learning something else to develop an answer in his own right. What do we always say, right? Hitters eventually can catch up to velocity. Well, wouldn't it be nice if Aroldis Chapman had a 93-mile-an-hour slider that he could go to when you do catch up to that fastball? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a baseball player who hit lefties really well, but then you also, look, he can hit 330 against lefties. But can he get to the point where you think he's going to hit 130 against righties? What if he hit 240? And now he becomes a player that can play every day. Now he becomes a player who can earn a bigger contract in his future because he's more complete. I get it that Giannis in the NBA is a freak athlete. He is always going to live in the post, in transition, and dominate athletically. I like that Giannis is working on his jump shot. I like that Giannis is working on his three. Is he going to shoot 10 of them a game? Is he going to shoot 50% from three? No. But I like that he's got something else in his bag of tricks besides just dunking, besides just going to the bucket. He's always going to be great at that. But I like when you're able to expand. And I hate when a guy gets typecast, right? A guy comes into the league, a guy gets drafted at 21 years old, and they say, hey, in college, you were a great edge rusher. Or rather, you know what they say? In college, you were great at covering in the slot, and that's what you're going to do in the NFL. Well, look, man, I want to be a complete corner. I want to be a complete player. I want to play on the outside. I want to work that by year 2 or 3, I can cover a Devontae Adams or a Justin Jefferson. I don't want you to think that I only have one skill set. I even think about it like me in radio, right? Like Brady's the sports guy, and that's great. I want to be the sports guy. That is my thing. But when they hired me, they said, look, we think you have the ability to do the news. And that's turned into, we think you have the ability to do Vermont Viewpoint. So we're going to ask you to do it every couple of times. And that works for me. That makes me happy to grow my skill set and to have other things to go to. Sports will always be my thing. This will always be my passion. And this will probably always be what I'm best at. And I like that and accept that. But I want to get better. I want to grow. I mean, don't you all hate at work when you feel stunted, when you feel like you're in a box, when you feel like you can't get out of that box? That is what we are doing to these players. Yes, the teams are optimizing players' abilities. This way of thinking is good for a team, right? I get that. But as a player, I don't love this. I want to be better. I want to be more complete. I want to show you that I can get better at something, and being more complete opens the door for me to more playing time, to more money. And that matters at the pro level. And you know where else this bothers me is that sports is very, very trickle down. I know it and you know it, that if we got specialized roles in the pros, we're going to get specialized roles in college, and it's not too long before specialized roles are going to come to your high school, if they're not already there. And I don't love that either, because you all listening out there are eventually going to have a kid who he's 14 years old, and his coach tells him, you're not allowed to shoot. You're just a defensive guy. Don't even bother shooting at practice. You're just going to play defense. And I don't want that for your kid. Right? It's one thing at the pros where guys are getting paid. It's one thing in college where guys can get paid and they're getting scholarships and free education. It's another thing in your community league or your high school league. Look, man, my little brother, I went to a huge high school. This might be different in your really small high schools where you don't have options like that. I went to a huge high school. 3,000 kids in my high school. 3,000, 800 per class. So there were a lot of kids going out for teams, and rosters were big. So you were able to have more specialized roles at my high school. My little brother worked his tail off. He worked his butt off at everything he did on the basketball court. And my little brother was really, really good. And he was not a great shooter, but he was an elite defensive player. And by the time he was a senior in high school, that's all they wanted him to do. Play defense and rebound. That was it. And he played his role, and he did it well, but he was scared off from playing offense. Do you really want to do that to a 17-year-old? Do you really want to do that to an 18-year-old? That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem right. So this debate to me is fascinating. Do you work on just your strengths, or do you try to get more well-rounded? I like the idea of being able to become more well-rounded. That's how I think you grow. That's why I think you push envelopes. That's how I think you push barriers. That's how you break free from limits. But teams don't always see it that way. And it sounds like now they don't see it that way. I mean, I will say, look, I might be wrong on one of my first strong takes in my history in sports radio. When I first got into sports radio, the first real strong take I ever had was that Blake Griffin and Dwight Howard were the most overrated athletes of my lifetime. I used to say that whenever anyone asked me for my hot take, that was my hot take. Blake Griffin and Dwight Howard, to me, were nothing more than dunkers. They were nothing more than athletes. Well, maybe that's all they were allowed to be. Maybe they were never given the leeway to try to get better. Maybe some coach just said to him, Blake, jump over everybody and throw it down, and that's it. Maybe that's how it went down, and maybe they were put in this box by somebody else. I I don't love this. 802-585-3026. Ray in Warren. I am only successful because I can do everything at my job spot on. Steve over in Fayston says, do you think it's that literal to where they... I think Steve's got a typo in there because you think it's that literal. I mean, look, it's not always that literal, but that is a team's preference. Like, baseball is the worst at it. Right? You've heard of the platoon, right? I will tell you that right now, because I listen to Jerry DiPoto, the Seattle Mariners are looking for a right-handed outfielder. Why are they looking for a right-handed outfielder? They're looking for a right-handed outfielder to pair with a left-handed outfielder so that they can have a good platoon. They don't believe that their left fielder, who's a lefty hitter, can hit lefty pitching. They want to shelter him from that. They want a righty to play on days when lefties are pitching. And that will always be their preference. Will there be a day where he plays against lefties? Yeah, of course there will, because someone will be banged up and someone will be injured and whatever. But the team's preference is that this guy only plays against righties and that guy only plays against lefties. That's the preference of the team. Look up and down your bullpen in Major League Baseball. And our preference is that this guy only pitches to lefties. And this guy only gets to throw sliders. Why is the slider the pitch in baseball right now? There are some guys who come out and never throw fastballs. Lance McCullers, the pitcher for the Astros, throws nothing but curveballs and sliders. Throws 95 miles an hour, throws nothing but curveballs and sliders. The Astros have said, your curveball and slider are so good, you're not going to throw anything else. If I'm Lance McCullers, I'd be furious. I'm like, buddy, I had Tommy John surgery and had the ulnar collateral ligament of my elbow taken out because you won't let me pitch any other way. Tex says, Brady, nothing is fair. I didn't talk about fair. I'm saying that as a player, I want the chance to grow. That's what I'm saying. I didn't say it wasn't fair. I said I just don't like it. Again, at the pros, you get paid, so fine, we all have to deal with it. But when it comes to your local high school, I don't think this is going to be something that people are enjoying. It's the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I want to get to our six-pack of NFL questions. Fire up the music, people. Big voice guy, question number one. What do we got?
The best game of the NFL weekend is...
Best game NFL weekend. This is an important week, week 15. Best game, Titans at Chargers. And this is a game that you probably don't think is going to be the best game, but it's a really important game. Now, the Titans are in the worst division in the league, probably. Second worst division in the league in the AFC South. So that whole division gets kind of forgotten. The Chargers are out west. They have a bunch of weird losses all the time. They kind of get forgotten. Now, this game is going to be big, right? This is a game with two teams fighting it out for playoff position. The Chargers right now have a 74% chance to make the playoffs. If they win this game, it goes to 88%. The Titans have an 81% chance to make the playoffs. So win jumps it up to 92. So this game has huge playoff implications for two playoff-likely teams. It's also a battle of strength on strength. Listen to this. Titans defense tied for first in the NFL in rushing touchdowns allowed this season. Well, Austin Eckler has 13 touchdowns. He's second in the NFL. Titans are excellent in the red zone defensively. Eckler, awesome in the red zone offensively. Derrick Henry's got 1,200 rushing yards almost. And, the Chargers rushing defense is horrific. So that might be the key for Tennessee is to get Derrick Henry going. But this game is a sneaky big game out west. Titans at Chargers.
The game that intrigues us most is...
Game that intrigues us most is one we never would have thought about at the beginning of the year. That is Lions at Jets. And this is intriguing for a couple of different reasons. One, these are two teams also who have a chance to make the playoffs. The Jets right now are duking it out with the Patriots and Chargers and others for that final playoff spot. So the Jets are in an opportunity to make the playoffs. The Jets have a 25% chance to make the playoffs. It would go up to 35% with a win. The Lions, they also at 6-7, they have a chance to make the playoffs. You look at the NFC, Seahawks are going down the tubes. Washington and the Commander, or Washington and the Giants, someone's going to lose that game this weekend. The Lions have a tiebreaker over both Washington and the Giants. So they have a chance to make you have two playoff hopefuls here. And the Lions are becoming kind of our league-wide darling, are we not? They started out 1-6. Dan Campbell's a guy who seems fun to play for. It's a young, excitable team, a young team you like to root for. So Lions and Jets has playoff implications. And these are two teams going in opposite directions. The Lions have won 5 of their last 6. The Jets have lost 4 of their last 6. And, oh, by the way, Zach Wilson is starting again for the Jets. Mike White, too injured to play after those hits he took last week against Buffalo. He gutted it out last week after leaving the game a couple of times. He's out this week. Zach Wilson is back for the Jets. We're going to get to more on him in a bit.
The Bar Rescue Game of the Week is...
Bar Rescue Game of the Week. This is the game that is the worst on the NFL schedule. There's a couple of potential duds this week. For me, the biggest dud, Steelers at Panthers. Ugh. One, I saw enough of the Panthers last week when they ran all over my Seahawks. I'm done with the Panthers right now. I don't want to watch them anymore because I'm so mad at what happened last week. Then you look at the Steelers, no Kenny Pickett. This game is going to be a Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph game. I've seen enough of them for a lifetime. I'm good. I don't need to watch either of them play. Now, this game means something. The Panthers technically still have a chance at the NFC South title, given how bad the NFC South has been this year. Steelers gave up a ton of rush yards last week against Baltimore. Panthers ran for a bunch against Seattle. Seems like that might be the play offensively. Not going to be a lot of passing in this game on either side. This one, to me, sounds like a nap waiting to happen.
The player we want to watch most this week is...
Player I want to watch most this week is Zach Wilson. Right? This is going to be fascinating because Zach Wilson, the guy who was benched, has a chance now to rescue the Jets' playoff hopes. The Jets' playoff hopes may rest in his hands this week against the Lions. So, 1, that is interesting. 2, we love a comeback story in this country. We love a guy who's been humbled. Zach Wilson's been on the bench for 2 weeks. Has he been humbled enough? Or 3 weeks. Has he been humbled enough? How does he look on the field? How does he act on the field? How does he relate to his teammates? How do they buy into him? What kind of command of the huddle does he have? Then how does he play? It's going to be fascinating to watch because this could be something that resurrects Wilson's career in New York or effectively ends it. If he's kind of punky on the field and plays poorly, they might be looking to move on from him. This might be his last great shot in New York. We'll see what he does with it.
The player with the most pressure this week is...
Tua. Player with the most pressure this week, that's Tua Tagovailoa. Usually the player with the most pressure is a quarterback. And when you are a team that... Look, the Dolphins, they've done everything around you. Right? They have done everything around you. All the things Mac Jones doesn't have, Tua has. It's time to capitalize. It's time to make the playoffs. Right? The Dolphins were 8-3. They were a great story around the NFL. Now, they've lost 2 straight games. Dolphins have a high chance still at making the playoffs, but they've lost 2 straight. They're 8-5. Tua's got it all. He's got an offensive-minded head coach. He's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They went out and beefed up the offensive line for him this year. Now, I know Teron Armstead's been hurt, but they still went out and did it. They went and got Bradley Chubb as a pass rusher. They've done everything you would want a guy to do on it for a quarterback on a rookie deal. They've given him all the help possible. Now it's time for him to go and capitalize on it. They're going to be playing in Buffalo against the number 1 seed in the conference. They're going to be playing in a foot of snow potentially. I mean, this is a chance for Tua to really show something. If they go to Buffalo and get beat 38-0, you trust me, the Tua critics are going to be out in full force again. How does he play in the snow? How do they play in the snow? How do they respond to adversity? We've lost 2 straight, tough weather. Tua Tagovailoa's got to be the guy that keeps this thing on the tracks.
The most amazing NFL stat of the weekend is...
If the Steelers lose to the Panthers, it will be the Steelers' first losing season since 2003. 2003, your first losing season. The NFL is built on parity. You know how hard it is to go 500 or above every year? It's not built for you to be able to do that. It's built for new teams to take the reins. And the Steelers have been at 500 or above every year since 2003. That is unbelievable longevity. That's the third longest streak in NFL history right now. Okay. The Cowboys did it 21 times in a row from 65 to 85. And the Patriots did it 19 times from 2001 to 2019. The Steelers are at 18 consecutive seasons without a losing record. And if they lose to Carolina, they're going to end up with a losing record for the first time since 2003. That's pretty amazing to me. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Want to give myself a little pat on the back today because Rams fan Ralph texted me yesterday on the text line and said, Brady, I'm rooting for the Seahawks against the 49ers. And I told you basically exactly what would happen in advance, and I was pretty much dead on. I told you the Seahawks were going to get rolled in that game. They did. Now, the scoreboard says they only lost by 8, but there should have been a pick 6 in there. It was an awful, awful roughing the passer call that took that off the board for San Francisco. So the Niners dominated that game. I told you that Kyle Shanahan owned the Seahawks. He was pretty clever as a play caller, winning that game on the road with a third-string quarterback who was injured. I told you George Kittle would own the Seahawks, and he had 2 receiving touchdowns, so check there. And I told you the game would probably be fairly ugly and low-scoring early, and then the Niners would pull away, and that's exactly what happened. The game turned on the Travis Homer fumble at the end of the first half. If Travis Homer doesn't fumble, and the Seahawks go down and score, and maybe they're up 10-7, or maybe they're down 7-6, totally different game. Heck, if they go in the half at 7-3, it might be a totally different game. But the Niners made the big play when they needed it. And they capitalized. And that was the game. And then it became easy pickings. So, look, I may not know everything about sports. I know what the Patriots are, and I know what the Seahawks are. So, Ralph, I appreciate you listening yesterday. I appreciate you wanting the Seahawks to win. I knew that was going to be the outcome long before we ever stepped on the field. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on DEV. Red Sox make a couple of very interesting moves today. I'm going to tell you what they were next here on DEV.
Hi, I'm Allison Calderera from Capstone Community Action. This year, making ends meet is especially hard for low-income families. At Capstone, we are seeing firsthand the struggles Vermonters face to afford food and heat. Our food shelf visits are rising, and our phones are ringing with Vermonters worried about staying warm with high fuel prices. But there is hope. Right here and right now in your community, our doors are open to help struggling families that are cold and hungry. At our food shelf, we'll feed over 500 kids this year. Our crisis fuel program will keep seniors on fixed incomes warm during the bitter cold months. But we can't do this work without you. Together, we can help ensure no Vermonters have to choose between heating their homes and feeding their families this winter. Please give generously at fuelyourneighbors.org. Your donation will be matched by our generous sponsor, VSECU. Thank you.
The New England Patriots made some great defensive plays Monday night in a big win over the Arizona Cardinals.
He takes the shot at the step. He drops back. Pressure throws down, little drop by Hopkins, crossing near side. Pulls runs loose. He got it. Picked up by the Patriots. Down the right side. Running into the end zone. Touchdown, New England. A scoop and score for Raekwon McMillan.
Now the Patriots head to Vegas for a Sunday afternoon showdown against the Raiders. Brought to you by Chips Auto. Full-service auto repair and tire services on Weston Street, Randolph, and at chipsautoandtire.com. Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems for all things basementy. Online at northernnefoundations.com. And Big Tex Trailer Sales in South Royalton and at bigtextrailersales.com. Patriots and Raiders Sunday afternoon, pregame 1 o'clock, 4:05 kickoff, right here on your home for Patriots football, WDEV FM and AM.
Are seasonal utility bills giving you a headache? You're not alone. Hi, Tara here from Green Mountain Solar. We're here to help. By going solar, you insulate yourself from fluctuating energy bills and rate hikes. It's an investment in your energy today, so you can avoid unpleasant surprises down the road. And I don't know about you, but I just got my first heating bill for the season, and ouch. Green Mountain Solar can add a heat pump to your project to efficiently keep your home toasty in the winter and cool in the summer. Need help financing? We've got you covered there too. Our partnership with VSECU gives our customers one regular monthly payment. Going solar is like paying rent versus paying a mortgage. One is just a bill that you throw into the void, while the other is building towards an investment. With solar, that's decades of free electricity from the sun. As the saying goes, the best time to invest was yesterday. The second best time is today. Best of all, it's easy to start with a free site visit. Get started today by going to greenmtnsolar.com.
The mission of Paralyzed Veterans of America is clear. Accessibility. Veterans who have served and sacrificed the best of themselves deserve access to the best our country has to offer. Access to meaningful employment. Access to the veterans' benefits they've earned. Accessible homes and vehicles. And access to every part of their communities. With PVA staff working inside VA hospitals, no other veterans organization has provided more real-time, ongoing support for paralyzed veterans and their families. PVA is proud to serve veterans across all branches, all generations, and all conflicts. Our nation's heroes fought for your independence. Join PVA in fighting for theirs at pva.org.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Reminder, the show is brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, online at prodrivercdl.com. You can work on your Class A, Class B, or your advanced passenger and advanced skills training as well. Jazz with George Thomas is coming up next. George has braved the roadways, and he is here safely. Hope all of you are doing the same. A couple of interesting things with the Red Sox. I'll mention the one fairly notable move that the Red Sox made today in a second. But I mentioned to you yesterday there are going to be some changes to the Red Sox broadcasts here on WDEV, and it's not a result of anything we do. It's a result of what the flagship WEEI in Boston does. So we learned now that Lou Merlone, former Red Sox infielder, is going to do 60 games on radio for the Red Sox radio network, of which, of course, we are a part of. So I think that's great. I think that's great for the team. I think that's great for you. I think that's great for me. I love listening to Lou Merlone. He played the game. He played in Boston. He's from New England. He's been around the team. He's got relationships, and he just knows the game. Right? You want a baseball guy in the booth that can take you through various situations and do it in a relatable way, and also has the passion of you, the fan, considering he grew up a fan and considering he played there. I think I think that's a home run. To get more Lou Merlone on the broadcast, to me, is an absolute win. So Lou's going to do 60 games on radio. So that's, nearly half the season. I think that's awesome for all of us. Rich Keefe is going to be the new Red Sox pregame show host. He's going to replace Mutt. I don't know much about Rich Keefe. He does a show on WEEI and has for a while. I don't know much about him. But, certainly, obviously, we'll have him, and we'll get to know him over the course of the next season. And then now, this is the big one. Joe Castiglione is going to step back from doing a full slate of games. And this is at Joe's request. He's not being demoted, but Joe is, at his request, going to do 81 games next season. He's going to do half the season. And he said, look, he's in his I think late 70s, they're mid 70s at this point. He said, while I have my health and while my wife does, we want to spend more time together and we want to see our kids and see our grandkids. And that's why X stepped away from the TV side. Nothing but respect for Joe Castig. Cannot be, obviously can't be upset with him about it. 40 years with the Reds. Easy joke.
I wanna learn English, and I wanna speak it my daughters. I'm honored to be a Red Sox nation. I'll do my best. Thank you.
I give Yoshida a lot of credit there. Like, just on the human level, I give him a ton of credit. Congrats to putting himself out there. Congrats to being uncomfortable. Like, we praised Rafael Devers last year for doing an interview in English and doing the same thing. I give credit to anybody who tries that. So I instantly like Yoshida, and I'm rooting for him because he was willing to go out and do something uncomfortable. I give him a lot of credit for that. And I hope that Red Sox fans are fair on Yoshida. Because here's what I don't want. I don't want fans to treat him like he's got to come in and be the savior. I don't want fans to come in and treat him like he's got to be the one thing that Chaim Bloom did right. I don't want it to be like, oh, he's got to come in and he's got to replace Xander Bogaerts. That's what I don't want, and that's unnecessary pressure that he doesn't need. Look, Masataka Yoshida he's got real expectations, right? He got a 5-year, $85 million deal. So, like, I'm not going to just be okay with him hitting 225. He's got to come in here and put up real numbers. As far as I'm concerned, he's got to be what Alex Verdugo was supposed to be. He's got to be a guy who I think can hit 265, 270. He's got to be a guy who can put up 20 homers. He's got to be a guy who can hit 25 doubles. Like, that's what I need to see from Yoshida. He's got real expectations. But what I don't need is from day one, everybody to sit here and say, he is the Xander Bogaerts replacement, and that is the pressure that is bestowed upon him. That's what I don't want from Red Sox Nation, and that's what I fear is going to be the case. Because Red Sox fans are so upset about Bogaerts. Red Sox fans are so upset at ownership. They're so upset at management that I can picture Red Sox fans at Fenway saying, hey, Yoshida, or saying, hey, Bloom, even Yoshida sucks. Like, I can picture that. And that's what Yoshida doesn't need. He doesn't need to wear all of Chaim Bloom's failures or perceived failures on his chest. He doesn't need to do that. And I hope that Red Sox fans give him a chance to play freely and become the player he's supposed to be. Because the last thing you need is him to go 0 for his first 8 and have Red Sox Nation turn on him. That's what I don't need. Texter says, Brady, thanks for the info on Joe Castig on the broadcast. What an icon. He's a legend. And legends deserve the right to call their own shots. And that's what Joe's doing. And certainly I don't begrudge him for it. I mean, I'm disappointed because I love listening to him. But when you wonder next year where Joe is, he's going to be around. He's just going to be around for mainly home games. Now, look, the Red Sox get 81 home games. Joe's going to do 60 of them. So when the Red Sox are at home, you're going to hear Joe most of the time. You're going to hear him, I don't know what 60 out of 80 is, but it's got to be 75% or above. You're going to hear him like 75% of the home games. So 6 out of 8, 75. I think it's 75% exactly, maybe. So that to me is good. And Lou's great, and Will Fleming is going to do play-by-play is great, and Joe's great, and Sean McDonough is great, and they're all going to be back. And Joe gets to call his own shot, and that's great too. The big move the Red Sox made today was they designated Eric Hosmer for assignment. And this is interesting because it means a couple of things. One, this is Tristan Casas' job at first. And to me, that's the way it should be, right? Tristan Casas is the future of this team at first base. Give him the job. He showed out well in September. I don't expect him to be the savior either, but he deserves to play, and especially right now, as the Red Sox presently are constructed, appear to be in another bit of a rebuild still. There's no point in playing Hosmer as far as I'm concerned. I thought Hosmer might last on this roster as a bridge to Casas, as a mentor to Casas. These guys are friends. They get along. They work out together. They're from the same spot in Florida. So I thought maybe Hosmer would be there, but just give Casas the job. So that's what this means. Hosmer being gone opens the door for Casas to play every single day. And so that's good news. It's also confounding to a lot of people, though, because the Red Sox traded for Eric Hosmer last year from the Padres and now just get rid of him. So people are kind of like, well, why'd you get him in the first place if you weren't going to keep him around? I think last year their intention was to try to make the playoffs, and first base was a place they needed to upgrade, and Hosmer ended up getting hurt and missing most of the time he was here. So I think they really acquired him for last year, so that doesn't really bother me. Hosmer is essentially free because the Padres are paying his salary. I kind of wondered if the Red Sox could just flip him for anything to try to, ship him to another team that is looking for cheap labor at first base. And maybe they still can because of the, because they have like 10 days now to trade him. Otherwise, he just gets released. But Eric Hosmer DFA'd. That is the big transactional move of the day. Yoshida signing. That is the big move of yesterday. So I think that things are going to slow down here on the hot stove as we get towards the holidays. And I think by New Year's, you'll start to see more things ramp up. Now, Andrew Benintendi signed a 5-year, $75 million deal with the White Sox today. That is absurdly high for him. For a guy who has no power, I think has 22 home runs in the last 2 years. Benintendi is a good player. Don't get me wrong. But he is not a 5-year player. Like, the $15 million a year don't really bother me. If it was 2 for 30 or 3 for 45, I'd probably be okay with it. It's the 5 years for $75 million that's what rubs me the wrong way. Like, the market is insane. But so Benintendi signs. Maybe we'll hear on Swanson before the holidays. I don't know. But I expect that by New Year's, you'll start to see the market continue to thaw, right? The big players have mostly all signed. Sadly, Carlos Rodon signed yesterday. So now Verlander's off the market, DeGrom's off the market, Rodon's off the market, and Bassett's off the market. I think you're going to start to see the mid-level starters sign, your Michael Wacha types. Now Judge is signed, Correa is signed, Bogarts is signed, Turner is signed. You're going to start to see, once Swanson goes, I think the rest of the log jam will break. Around New Year's, mid-January, I think we'll see more and more moves. But I expect the hot stove to really cool here for the holidays. But it's still a couple of days before we get to that full point. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's finish out the show. An interesting story about more people my age living with their parents. I'm going to tell you more about that story next on DEV.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. Morning, you're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code LIMO for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LIMO for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LIMO.
Just because you're away from your radio or out of our broadcast range doesn't mean you have to miss out. Listen live on the WDEV stream, brought to you by AARP Vermont. WDEV's morning, midday, and afternoon news services, Vermont Viewpoint, and the Brady Farkas Show can all be found on the WDEV stream at WDEVradio.com. Brought to you by AARP Vermont, working to bring down the cost of prescription drugs for all Americans. AARP.org/VT.
Are you a Vermonter receiving Social Security benefits because of a disability? Are you working or trying to find employment? Disability Rights Vermont is a nonprofit organization with a mission to protect and advocate for the rights of people with disabilities. DRVT helps people that receive Social Security benefits to overcome obstacles to employment. DRVT has assisted Social Security beneficiaries in overcoming disability-based discrimination in the workplace, as well as addressing employment barriers related to problems with housing, transportation, or education. DRVT services are confidential and may include information, referral, advocacy, and legal representation. If you or someone you know receives Social Security disability benefits and is experiencing barriers to employment, please contact us at Disability Rights Vermont, 1-800-834-7890 or www.disabilityrightsvt.org.
Join Brent Curtis tomorrow night for the final night of the Dave Morse Tournament. Randolph and Williamstown in the Concy. Hazen plays Lamoille for the championship. Coverage starts at 5:15. Brought to you by Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems, Lenny Shoe and Apparel, Northern Vermont University, and Ted Green Ford. The final night of the Dave Morse Tournament tomorrow night on Northfield Savings Bank High School basketball on WDEV. Brought to you by Maplewood and the Vermont Travelers Service Center.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities. We are Rotary. We are people of action. With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. Around the world, generations of leaders build new friendships and solve problems, turning great ideas into reality. Take action with us. Find out more at rotary.org/action.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-5830-26.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Good news for the Celtics tonight. Al Horford's back from the health and safety protocols. They're taking on the Orlando Magic at TD Garden. That game in about a half hour now at 7:30. Robert Williams is back. He's going to make his season debut today, coming off the knee issues that plagued him throughout the playoffs last season. So we're happy to see Robert Williams back. Don't know how much he'll play, but Orlando is one of the worst teams in the league, so it seems like a good chance to get him in and kind of ease him in slowly. Not as high a pressure game, a game the Celtics should take care of business in. So we'll see if they do. You still have to play the game. But good news for the Celtics. I'm going to go home and watch some of that game as well tonight. I think I'm picking the Raiders on Sunday. Now, my pick is contingent, at least mentally, on Waller and Renfro playing, but I think I'm picking the Raiders. Patriots are out west, 2-week trip. This is a short week. You're not practicing even in Vegas. You've been out in Tucson, Arizona here. They've got elite offensive weapons. They've got a head coach that knows you. I feel like the Raiders are going to win this game. I'm going to say 24-20. I think the Patriots are going to fall to 7-7. I hope I'm wrong. Whenever I pick against the Patriots, I hope I'm wrong. But I fear that I won't be. So there's my official prediction on record. Raiders 24 and the Patriots 20. So, by the way, did you see this story out there that said, like, people between the ages of 25 and 34, like 20% of them now live with their parents? And that parents actually want to get rid of their kids because, they don't pay rent often and they just eat all their food and they're just there cramping on their style. 20% of people 25 to 34 live at home, huh? Damn. I did not realize it was that high. But here's the answer, everybody. I'm telling you right now, as somebody who's in that age group, it's hard to be in that age group. I know that millennials get the, oh, they're too lazy. Oh, they're too soft. Oh, they don't want to work hard. My generation worked harder. Miss me with all that. You know how hard it is to be a millennial right now? You know how hard it is to make it as a millennial right now? That's why all these people are living at home. That's why they're all living with mom and dad. I'm lucky. I don't have any school debt, like college debt, but college debt is out the wazoo. So they're paying for that. Credit card debt is through the wazoo from all these interest hikes. That's insane. That's contributing to it all. The housing market is nuts. You can't afford anything. At least in this state, total dumps are $400,000 now. Total fixer-uppers. You need $1 million just to get a house and renovate it. You can't beat anybody out at an all-cash offer. Jobs don't pay as well. So when you ask why are these millennials all living at home, well, there's the answer. If we stopped inflation and made the housing more affordable, then we'd all be able to make it on our own a little bit easier, wouldn't we? So there's my TED Talk for the day. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you all drive safe and get where you're going. So I'm going to do the same. Jazz with George Thomas is coming up next. I remind you that tomorrow we have the Dave Morse Invitational Consolation and Finals, the Consolation and the Championship. Our coverage begins at 5:15. Patriots football on Sunday with our coverage beginning at 1. So go download the Brady Farkas Show podcast. I've got my interview there with Cam Ellsworth, Norwich hockey coach, as well as Phil Perry from NBC Sports Boston. Again, drive safe. Have a great weekend, everybody. Jazz with George Thomas is coming up next. I'll see you on Monday here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Go Pats. I hope I'm wrong.
In December's Vermont Biz, we learn more about the woman who made history in November's elections.